It's time to crown the Album of the Year 2024. In the rock universe, I haven't covered all of the genres on the planet, and also these are only the albums I've heard. So this is a limited list. Also, it's incredibly opinionated. This is just my personal taste. And there are various ways that I'm ranking my albums. It's not all the same. It's not just what is, I think, the most technically interesting. Sometimes it's as simple as this album I can't stop looping. And even though it might be a very basic album, comparatively to some other conceptually interesting stuff, I love it more because I'm playing it more. Sometimes it comes down to that. I'll try and explain each time I rank an album here why I've put it in the place that I have comparative to the other ones. But we'll see. Also, an important thing to call out, I think, is that my list changed 5 minutes before I started this recording. Like, this is just a snapshot in time. These albums are going to change in terms of how much I love them or don't love them over time. Just right now, this is where I stand on these records. This is just for giggles. It doesn't matter. All those caveats out of the way. First, we're going to do EP of the year. I know I've just been teasing albums, but EPs also exist, and there are a couple that I think are relevant enough that they deserve to be shouted out. Now, I think, though, this year I've only actually listened to 5 EPs. I think I have. If I've got that wrong, let me know in the comments, and I don't know. Well, actually, I can't do anything about it now. The video is live. There are 5 EPs I've heard this year, I think. So, in order from worst to first, I just didn't really like this very much. I mean, it was really heavy, and there's a value to that, but it was so consistently heavy that I didn't think there was much variety in it, and I got tired of it as it went on. But that's my 5th best EP of the year. It went a little bit like this. It was a lot. It was a lot for me. I'm just not quite there yet with Counterparts. 4th best EP of the year, Rêve Noir. French metalcore band, did some amazing work. There's some absolute stand-up moments in this EP. It's a really good, solid start overall, I think, but there's moments of real deliciousness in there. Even a masterpiece song within it. Very good EP from Rêve Noir. A really great debut EP from Rêve Noir. Beaten in 3rd place for me by another debut EP by the band called Gore. They did something quite brilliant this year in that they drew on the influences of Sleep Token and Deftones and almost entirely made it their own thing. There was one song where I think it was a little bit on the nose, quite Sleep Token-y, but the rest of it, I thought, was a really interesting next generation version of the newer sounds in the metal scene. So this was a fantastic EP. Also had moments of incredible vocal acrobatics, the likes of which you really only hear in the West End or Broadway. In the metal universe, this band is going to go places for sure. This EP is fantastic. Now, my favorite song of it technically came out end of last year, but it was Pray. Could you stay? Very promising new band there. So intrigued to see what they do from here on. The 2nd place EP of the year, just missing out on the top spot, is North Lane with Mirror's Edge. A couple of singles came out before that, which were stonkingly good. And the rest of the EP, I think because maybe I hadn't spent as much time with them yet, on first listen, didn't seem as promising as the rest of them. However, if you give it a time and you listen to it more, especially go see them live, some of the songs like Craft really translate live for me. This EP is fucking gold. It's so good. It is well-rounded. It is loopable. It is catchy. It is dark. It's got all sorts of great stuff in it. Here's one of my favorite moments from that. Beautiful and heavy in equal balance. Fantastic EP from North Lane. And now on to my favorite EP of the year. It was No contest, actually. I think this is one of the most exciting new bands that have come out in the rock universe. This EP was so good. Unpeople, with their self-titled EP that came out this year, just awesome. Draws upon influences from bands I've loved in the past, like Reuben, for example. There's multi-part harmonies throughout it. There's some kind of swing feels within it. There's aggression. There's beauty. It's got a point to make. It's fucking brilliant. This is such a strong debut EP from this band, and I'm so stoked to see what they're going to do in future. This was my favorite EP of 2024.
Shooting yourself in the foot with the starting gun. Good going, running a race that you know just can't be won. It hasn't even begun. We're gonna waste it all away.
So goddamn good. So good. Highly recommend keeping them on your radar and seeing them live if you get the chance. They're excellent live too. And now we're on to the album of the year 2024. I'm going to give you a top 20. It's a lot, but there's been a lot of albums, a lot of good albums. So we're going to go from 20 up until number 1. Honorable mention, just missing the top 20. Boundaries, a very, very good album. Enjoyed that, but not in the top 20. Number 20, for me, Relica. Now, this album has some moments of absolute gold on it. There's so many cool, innovative, interesting things they're doing in the world of metalcore. Love it. A couple moments where I found it a little bit confusing. Sometimes it's very busy, and there's a lot of unusual song structures to it, which made it challenging to listen to at times. But the great moments in this are fucking fantastic.
Did you neutralize the shame?
Lovely stuff. Now, in number 19, I have Era's Cure album. This is a wonderful album and has moments of sheer gorgeousness. Like Blue Reverie, I think, is a masterpiece. It's a beautiful song. Also, there's amazing heaviness. There's great scream vocals within there. It is a really interesting and thoughtfully put together album, and I have revisited it a few times. Very solid overall. That packed a bit of heat, and as did this next album. In at number 18, I have Alpha Wolf, Half Living Things. Pretty full-on record. Pretty full-on. And if I want something aggressive, I do think to put on an Alpha Wolf record such as this one. It was varied enough, I suppose, over the course of the album. Maybe not the most varied compared to some other albums this year, but pretty fun. Pretty fun record overall. Delightfully heavy, I surely agree. Now, this next album in at number 17 is Like Moss to Flames. Now, this album, along with Eras and Alpha Wolves, I had a hard time separating these. They're kind of along the same level for me. They came around the same sort of time of year, I think, and they all offered something a little bit different and did them all well in different ways. This album I return to more than the other two that are just below on this list. There's some great grooves within it. There's some catchiness in both what the guitars are doing, but also the vocals as well. Some great drumming work. This is a very complete album that I've enjoyed revisiting more since. In 16th place, and I think this is going to annoy some people because they'll think it should be higher, is From Zero by Linkin Park. Now, I warrant you, it is one of the most significant albums of 2024. That's not to be disputed. It completely rocked the world. The whole universe was talking about Linkin Park and their new singer and all that stuff. And there's some banger songs on this. It is a very, very good album, and I really enjoyed listening to it. The reason it's not higher is that I haven't really gone back to it at all. Maybe I should. Maybe that's on me. But I really enjoyed it as an experience, but the albums that are above this in my list are ones that I would rather more quickly listen to again, which is why it is where it is here. 16th place for me, Linkin Park, From Zero. A much better album than I expected it to be, and it did impress.
To put it all behind, I run into it blind like
Now we're to the top 15, and just beating out Linkin Park, for me, was Encore with their Shogunai album. This is an amazing album. The good songs on this album are better than the best songs on the Linkin Park album. In my opinion, this is very subjective, but songs like Prisoner is fucking amazing. Dark Beat is an incredible song. Stereo is brilliant. Oh, Oblivion is gorgeous. Venom is fucking amazing. It's not a perfect album. It's not all complete bangers for me, but the ones that are sheer gold, and I'm so impressed with this record in particular, and I've got this at number 15 in 2024. Absolutely glorious. Now on to number 14 on my list. This is Throne, an amazing hardcore band. Great live, delivered very well there. This album it both is heaters from start to finish, and it's got some kind of actually like iconic guitar moments. There's a uniqueness to there. There's a very Throne sound within it. I think this is a very loopable, brilliant album, and this is my second favorite hardcore album of the year.
I can't forgive myself for the things I've done. It's like every bad decision I made has led me to this point. Guess it's not my fault that I've run into a man I hate, and I'm all alone.
Yeah, that's good stuff. All right, now we're on to number 13, and it is Vola with Friend of a Phantom. I've only heard this album quite recently, actually, in the last month or so, and it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Every song, I think, stands on its own, but there's a sort of cohesiveness to the record overall. I'm growing to be more fond of the vocal styling. It's not really the kind that I get gravitated towards, but the drumming, the instrumentation, the lyrical bits and pieces, the whole package of this album, I think, is brilliantly put together, and I've really enjoyed listening to it more and more over time. So it's growing. Good to start, but growing. That's a very good album, in my view. Now, number 12 is going to surprise some people because I historically could not get on board with the sound of the vocals of this band. However, Knocked Loose have been winning me over through exposure therapy, I think, and You Won't Go Before You're Supposed To is a heater of an album. It's so very good. It also has one of the greatest songs of the year in Suffocate featuring Poppy on it. But honestly, the rest of it, you put any one of those tracks on, and you're going to get pretty energized pretty quickly. I really, really enjoyed this record, actually, and I have unironically been putting it on when I'm going to like pick up my daughters from school and nursery. Just rocking out of some fucking Knocked Loose. They've grown into something that I really genuinely enjoy, and I'm surprised by that. Delighted. And at number 12, Knocked Loose.
I suffered because of you. I won't take it till I find a fucking love. I suffered because of you.
Just missing out on the top 10. This is one of my favorite bands, and seemingly the last album they're going to make, which is super, super sad. But Void of Vision, What I'll Leave Behind, is a very complete album. It has a variety within the songs. Every song is individual of itself, but also is a great overall sound that carries through. I think this is their best, most cohesive sort of album work that they've done. I've really enjoyed their EPs in the past. This album was fantastic. I've enjoyed coming back to it, and there's a couple of standout songs. Empty, for example, is a single they released, which is one of my favorite songs of the year. Also, Blood for Blood is incredible. It is a fabulous record from Void of Vision. A shame it seems like it'll be their last, but what a last album.
I'll never understand how the fuck you could
to the top 10. Starting to get a little spicy here. There's some really difficult decisions I've had to make in this top 10. At number 10, I've put Poppy's album, Negative Spaces. That album was so much better than it needed to be, I think. It was fabulous. I really enjoyed this. There were some of the most heavy moments that Poppy's ever done, right? Clearly Knocked Loose is rubbed off on her. And their song, The Center is Falling Out, was almost my favorite hardcore song of the year. I think you got to give it to Suffocate. But that was amazing. There's some great 90s rock throwback moments in this. Every song is independent of each other, quite different and original. A really good blend overall. A very complete album. Such good work from Poppy. Just beating out Poppy in at number 9, and some people will think this is too low and should be higher than this, is Bring Me the Horizon's Next Gen album. Now, it was absolutely brilliant and genius and innovative. It is pushing the genre forwards in lots of ways, and there are banger songs on it. All of that is true. The reason it's not higher for my list is that it's quite a lot for the brain to process, I think, this album. I find myself not going back to it much because I'm just like, oh man, if I'm going to put on that album, I need to be ready for an absolute wall of craziness and chaoticness. And some songs are really strange and unusual, and some of the interludes are kind of annoying when you're listening to an album again. But there's fucking amazing songs on it. Some of my favorite songs of the year, like Limousine is an incredible song. Top 10 Statues That Cry Blood, amazing. Kool-Aid, obviously great. It's fucking Lost. It's got so many good songs. Amen. It's a brilliant, brilliant album, and it is a very important one, I think, in the metal scene. I just don't find myself going back to it much because it's so much to take in, actually. It's kind of my thing on that one. But it's very good.
'Cause I'm starting to realize no one's gonna come and rescue me. I'm drowning in my sleep. The skies have got too deep. And no matter love could.
I mean, so many good moments in that album. But the reason that this one beat it out for number 8 is because it's a more loopable album for me. I've listened to this album so much more than I have Next Gen. It is a brilliant debut album from a band called Oralize. I know it looks like it should be called Avrilize. I still think it should be called Avrilize, but they're called Oralize. The album's called Freaks, and it's an incredible debut album. They're super young. They've got some creative ideas. There's all sorts of things they've thrown at this record, and I've loved listening to it on repeat. Super fun band out of Germany. Wonderful stuff there from Oralize. Now, this next band, with their album in at number 7, I've enjoyed them for several years, but this year they truly honed the gold within them and created this amazing album called A Piece of Me I Never Let You Find. They're called Cane Hill. They're fucking excellent. Really good live. This album is just glorious overall from start to finish. There's wonderful, delicate, beautiful moments. There's also some supreme heaviness. I think this is a fantastic record, very loopable, and one of my favorite songs of the year is on it, which is called The Midnight Sun, and it is just awesome.
I find some peace of mind, knowing I don't have to hide. I got the piece of me that I never let you find.
Just missing out on the top 5, in at number 6, Wind Waker Hyperviolence. I've listened to this album a ton, right? It came out earlier in the year. It's had more time to percolate as a result. But there are so many good songs on it. And in fact, 2 of the songs on it, I'm pretty sure, are in my top 10, at least, songs of the year. It is so good. Metalcore at its best, but also innovating in that space, trying some different things, production-wise, structurally, sonically, compositionally. It's all very interesting. There's a rap element that happens later on in the album more so. They've got R&B elements. There's all kinds of gold within this record, and it is super fun, super enjoyable. I've listened to it a bunch. A bunch!
I'm dazed, swept up, taken by the waves. They keep on
can't tell you how many times I've listened to that song on repeat. Tabula Rasa, so good. But also, there's so many gold songs on that album. Now, we're into the top 5. Now, the top 5 is really difficult. It's really difficult. And this next position, I think, will surprise some people. I don't think this is necessarily like the coolest pick in the world for number 5, but I think this is kind of an undeniably great album. I really do. And every time I put this on, I think, fuck, it is back-to-back heaters. This is a blockbuster album from Falling in Reverse, Ronald. It's like a greatest hits. It's just amazing singles from start to finish. The only song that didn't really gel on the first listen was Bad Guy, but actually that one over time grows a little bit. This is such a well-crafted record. It's got brilliant, catchy melodies. It's got plenty of heat and heaviness. It's got All My Life, which is one of my favorite songs of the year, the country rock song. Fucking so good. This is a brilliant record. A brilliant record. I know it might not be the coolest choice in the world. It's like, well, why didn't you put Knocked Loose higher than this? Or Cane Hill or something. Yeah, you know what? It's a subjective list. Your list will be different. Results may vary, etc. I think this is an undeniably great album, and I think it is worthy of number 5. In at number 4, one of my absolute favorite albums I've heard in the metal scene, Alt from the New World. A phenomenal album, technically a debut album. They've just had EPs before this. It's brilliant. I fucking love the tone of the whole thing, the arc of it throughout the record. Some amazing moments in a lot of the songs. I could sit in this sound and loop it for hours and hours on end. I just think it's fantastic. I've thoroughly enjoyed discovering this band over the last, I guess, year or so. And this album is so good. A masterpiece, in my opinion. Just from the very first time I've heard it until now, I think it's fabulous. And now the top 3. I cannot get enough of this album. It is back-to-back bangers from start to finish. There are no weak songs. It is all just fucking awesome. It is Make Them Suffer, self-titled. Now, people have had some criticism of this record, saying like the songs aren't that varied enough. They don't have to be varied if they're all brilliant. And actually, I would disagree with that point. I think they are completely varied. If you start any one of those songs, you will know, oh yeah, it's this one. Like they've managed to find a brilliant sound and write a bunch of songs within that sound that each pack their own punch, in my opinion. And I think it's just fantastic. Just not dissimilar from the world of Falling in Reverse. This feels like a greatest hits album. It is just every single song absolutely bangs. From the rhythms, from the vocal destruction from Sean and Alex, the melodies, the catchiness of the choruses, the guitar riffs in this, it's just fucking awesome. And my third favorite album of the year. It almost was second. It almost was first at one point. This is a fantastic record.
They came in chariots to come and carry us. They came to save ourselves from what we've done. They sent the messengers to come deliver us. They came to save ourselves from what we
Now, unless you're new to this channel, my top album of the year is not going to be surprising. There's going to be no shocks here for that one. However, my number 2 album of the year is extremely surprising, I think, especially because when I first heard it, I rated it a solid. And now it's the number 2 album of my year. I cannot get enough of People Watching by 156 Silence. It's just, the more I hear it, the more I love it. And the last time I had an experience quite like that, it makes me think of Ruben's album, Race Car Backwards. When I first heard it, it's like, I don't know. I really like the singles, but what the fuck is this? I listened to this, I had a similar reaction. It was just like, oh man, it's so despairing and angry and heavy and confusing and odd. And the more I hear it, I just can't get enough. I can't get enough. This, over the past few weeks, has just gone up and up and up and up and up and up and up in my album of the year list. And it's sensational. It's an incredible record. Their song Better Written Villain was the first one I'd heard of theirs. I still think that's the best song on the album, but the rest of them are elevating over time. Like Target Acquired is incredible. Character development is amazing. Actually, even though I didn't really dig the chorus first time around, product placement is totally a grower. Blood Loss is an amazing song. This album deserves replays. If you keep listening to this album, it will become, I'm sure, no matter who you are, it'll become one of your favorites too. I can't believe this is number 2, especially given how good the Make Them Suffer album is and the Alt album. But this album has got into my nervous system and I can't shake it. It's an incredible, incredible record from 156 Silence. Honestly, I've never had something so heavy bring me such joy. I just think that's an incredible album. Now we're on to the least surprising number 1. This had been locked in pretty well since it came out earlier this year, but Bill Murray, American Motorsports, is the greatest album that came out this year for all kinds of reasons. But 2024 was all about Bill Murray for me. And you could see it in the trends that happened in the scene as well. This band has just suddenly caught on and is going places, and I cannot get enough. The most listened to song I had this year on my Spotify Wrapped was Bill Murray's Better Hell, and the next 4 were also Bill Murray. I think this is a very complete, wonderful album. There's incredible songwriting within it. The production levels are perfect. There's a little bit of heat here and there. There's some heaviness in the guitars, which I really enjoy. The drums are fantastic. Josh Emanuel is an amazing drummer. You've got some saxophone moments, which totally land. There's like a fucking violin at one point. It's brilliant from start to finish. Every single song has its own place. They've got emotional impact. There are beautiful, gorgeous melodies and harmonies throughout. It is genius. But then also there's the music videos, which have helped, I think, bring some mirth into the album as well. The meme lord that is Johnny Frank and everything he's added to this, doing his own thing. This is a very unique project that just connects with me hugely on a musical level especially, but also on everything else that goes into this record in particular. And for me, this was the most significant album of the year, and also my favorite, the one I've listened to the most. It is the King of the Castle in 2024, Bill Murray, American Motorsports.
So when they ask who hurt you, point the finger at myself, but I think of you. It's in the past, but I still do. No, I'm not in heaven yet, but it's a better hell than you.
So there you have it. My album of the year 2024, Bill Murray, American Motorsports. My album of the year last year was Sleep Token with Take Me Back to Eden. And recently I got to see both of them live at the aoty Arena in London. I'll put a link here so you can check out my experience of that one. It's actually been a fantastic year for music. There's a lot of consensus in the scene that the start of the year wasn't exactly that exciting and the rest, but there's been some good stuff in there. And actually I think the newer bands held up the first half of the year. There's some very exciting bits and pieces coming out from various new bands in the metal and rock scene. And the back half of the year was just so many great albums. In fact, my top 4 albums of this year, except for Bill Murray, so 3 of the top 4 is a better way of putting that, came out in the last half of the year. Ended up being a phenomenal year for music in 2024 in the rock universe. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments where you think I'm wrong about my listings here. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one. I'll fight you on some of these if you really want to have a conversation. But also bear in mind, this order of albums will be different for me probably tomorrow. Like, this is the nature of things. Songs, albums, artists, they grow and they fade with us over time. Who knows what'll happen in the coming days, even weeks, months, years. I'm really looking forward to next year. I'm sure we'll get some amazing albums with ones that we know are coming and others that we have no idea about that are going to come and blow our minds. Hopefully some debuts from new bands would be exceptional, just like some in my top 20 here. Thank you for watching this. If you haven't yet, do subscribe to the channel, then you get more videos like this in your future. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully I'll see you in another video very soon.